this is what I've learned through the passing of my mother and through having Kallie and having Kyro, is that I couldn't imagine my life without them. I don't know what my life would have looked like without the dogs. That in this life, I think a soulmate doesn't always have to be human. I think a soulmate can come in different forms. And I think sometimes that we can have more than one soulmate. I guess my life with my dogs started with, we've had family dogs growing up our whole lives, but I was working as a Carey, doing in-home palliative care, and one of the families that I befriended had a daughter, and her name was Brandy. And I was married and divorced at that time, and I'd been going through a lot of troubles. My ex and I were trying to conceive and have a child, and for whatever reason, that was never going to happen. So my friend Brandy wanted to do something really nice for me, so she ended up getting me a puppy. And that's how I got my very first dog, Tigger. And I had Tigger for 12 years. And Tigger passed away in March of 2007. And I remember I was devastated after he left. I felt like I'd lost my firstborn child. I didn't know life without him. It was completely devastating. But I always knew that there was more out there. I guess I just didn't know what that was. And I remember driving along the highway. It was about a year after Tigger had passed away, and I'd had this premonition, if you will. And I was driving, and I had this vision of this dog that had 13 white puppies. And she was in a blue barn. And it was like these hands had just picked up this female puppy, had given them to me, and said, "Carey, here, this is for you." And they handed me this white puppy. Months went by, and I was looking for my own home, and I was living with family, and I was working in Emerge at the hospital. And one evening, my niece was about 16, and Jessie was looking at some kind of internet web page about wolf hybrids. And I said to Jessie, "Why are you looking at that? Like, what do you want a dog like that for? You know nothing about wolf hybrids." I said, "Forget about it, go get yourself a real dog." The next day at work, I remember we were so busy and I didn't have a break, and I had like 15-20 minutes for supper. And I think that was probably the only break I'd had that day. And I picked up the paper, which was the Lloydminster, whatever weekly paper it was. And I saw it, I looked in, because I've been looking for puppies for a while. And lo and behold, I saw this ad for a website, the exact same website that my niece had been looking at the night before. And I looked at this website and I phoned this lady and I said, you know, I don't know if I want a wolf hybrid, but I'll come and I'll take a look at your puppies, but I'm not going to buy one. I just want to look and meet your animals and find out more about it, and that's all I want to do. So sure, she said. So on the Friday I went, and Jesse and I went, and we saw there were these 5 girl puppies in this puppy pen by themselves, and they were cute and they were pretty. They were beautiful, but they weren't my puppy. And then the lady looked at me and she said, wait now. She said, I have 3 more female puppies. Would you like to meet one? I said, bring them in. And she brought in these 3 puppies. She sat Kallie down. Kallie and I made eye contact, and Kallie fought over 7 other puppies to get to me. She was a sold puppy. And I brought Kallie home November 21st, 2008. That's when I got Kallie. And Kallie is part Arctic Wolf and she's part Husky. She has been probably one of the most quiet and revered dogs I've ever had. She's very nonchalant. She's very, very fiercely independent. She'll cuddle, but on her terms. And Kallie will be 9 at the end of September. And I love her as much as I love Tigger, but in a different way because she's Kallie. The thing that was so interesting is when Kallie and I, after we cuddled and after she fell asleep and after I knew she was my dog, I asked to go see where she was born in the whelping kennel she was born in and where the other puppies were. Interestingly enough, Kallie came from a litter of 8 females and 5 males. And the barn that they had them in was a barn that had been painted sky blue on the inside, and it was made of chipboard. And the whelping kennel that Kallie was born in had a whole bunch of straw that was on the bottom. So unbeknownst to me, because sometimes I think that the universe has a bigger plan for us than what we have for ourselves, that no matter how it transpired, Kallie was meant to be. She really was. When it came to Kyro, I knew Kyro was coming probably about 2 years before he got here because I just felt this energy of a male dog. And I was at work one day and I was working on the transition unit and I was doing an evening shift and I wanted to look for a dog, but I was interested in a Karelian bear dog. So I wanted to, but I didn't know how to spell it. So I thought I'd start off with the letter K and flip through the dogs and see what happened. And I saw this picture, and this picture just kept coming back to me. It just kept haunting me. And it just said to me, I needed one of these dogs. So when I talked to Amber about getting a Kuva, she had said to me, oh, they're very well to train. They're independent dogs. They listen to their elders. He'll be the perfect puppy. And I said, sold. I'm going to get a puppy. And due to finances and due to a couple surgeries and whatever, I waited 2 years before I brought Kyro home. And I thought, I love Kyro. That's his name. His name is Kyro. I hollered for Kyro, Kallie would go around looking for Kyro. And there was no Kyro. And I remember Kyro was 8 weeks and 2 days home, and I brought him home, I believe, on the 26th of April, 2013. He flew from Toronto all the way to Saskatoon, and I picked him up in Saskatoon because at that time, oddly enough, I thought that dogs, when you picked up your puppy, they came on the luggage thing like all your other luggage does. I didn't know you could pick it up on the cargo area. So I didn't want him getting lost in all the luggage. So I chose Saskatoon Airport because it was a smaller airport and I didn't want Kyro to get lost. And I remember the first day, there was another couple there waiting for their puppy from Toronto, and he was a King Charles Cavalier Spaniel. And I remember Kyro was like 10 times bigger than that puppy. And nobody at that airport had ever seen a dog like Kyro before. They didn't know him. And he was probably 22 pounds when I brought him home. And I remember from the day I brought him home, I always knew in my heart and soul that I appreciated him more than Kallie ever would. And although they get along, and although I know she loves him, I do know beyond the shadow of a doubt that I love him more. I do know that. And Kyro is the dog Kyro keeps me on my toes. If there's trouble to be had, if there's a mess to be made, if there's something that goes through the doggy door, I'll be at Kallie's bed, my dumbbells, my backpack, my duvet that he shredded, my parka, my jacket, my shoes, whatever. If it's in the house and it's laying down, it's free game, and it's outside in the backyard. If Kyro can figure out how to get it through the doggy door, he will. And that's my Kyro. And they tell me that Kubas are a large guardian dog. But there's no doubt in my mind that when it comes to guarding, that it would be myself that would guard the dogs, which is okay by me. Because there's no doubt that it would be me guarding the dogs. That I have no doubt about. What do I know for sure? This is what I know for sure. Is that when I lost Tigger, I thought my life was over. When I lost Tigger, everywhere that I looked, I looked and I saw things through my eyes, but I didn't recognize anything that I saw because everything was different. Everything in my life was different. I could love something else, and I didn't know if I had that in me to give or if I wanted to go through the pain of saying goodbye. Because the harsh reality of this life is that, barring from any trauma or an accident, the fact is that we as humans are always, for the most part, going to outlive our pets. And so I didn't know if I could go through that kind of heartbreak again. But this is what I've learned. Through the passing of my mother, and through having Kallie, and having Kyro, is that I couldn't imagine my life without them. I don't know what my life would have looked like without the dogs. I don't know. And long after they're passed, I think the heart is a beautiful thing. And I think that in this life, I think a soulmate doesn't always have to be human. I think a soulmate can come in different forms. And I think sometimes that we can have more than one soulmate. in this life, as Tigger was my soulmate, he was my boy, and we're connected in a plane other than the world. I know that. I feel the same about Kallie, and I feel the same about Kyro. And what I know for sure is that your soulmate doesn't have to be human. And in this life, I don't know what I did to get the gifts that I did, and I am so grateful that I have them. What else I know for sure beyond the shadow of a doubt is that long after I'm gone, even after I die, I will know how much I love them.